Good morning, students of class 4th. Students, I'm sure all of you are fit and fine. Students, please eat well, play well, study well, and sleep well. And most important, please stay indoors and keep yourself safe. Students, today I'll be continuing with lesson 6 of Wordsworth English Reader, Gulliver in the Land of Lilliput. Lesson 6, Gulliver in the Land of Lilliput. Students, today I'll be discussing the comprehension exercise A of lesson 6. But before I start that, I will once again read the lesson for you so that you understand the exercise better. So I'll read lesson 6, Gulliver in the Land of Lilliput. I must have slept for about 9 hours, for when I woke up, it was daylight. I tried to get up, but I couldn't move. My arms and legs were tied to pegs fastened into the ground. Thin, strong cords were tied across my body and attached to pegs in the ground. My long hair was spread out and tied down in the same manner. All I could do was to stare upwards at the sun, blinking to ease the pain on my already strained eyes. Suddenly, I heard strange noises around me, but I couldn't move to find out what they were or where they were coming from. The next moment, I felt something alive moving on my leg. It progressed over my stomach and onto my chest, stopping just below my chin. I lowered my eyes downwards as much as I could, hoping to see what sort of insect was crawling on me. Then I suddenly gasped. Why, it's a human creature, barely 6 inches tall. This creature had a bow and arrow in his hands and was followed by 40 more creatures like him. I was so surprised that I let out a frightful roar. All the creatures ran helter skelter and jumped off my body in terror. After some time, they gathered courage and climbed back onto my body. This time, one of them even clambered onto my chin to get a closer look at me. He let out a screech of excitement. Hekina Degul. Hekina Degul, repeated the crowd after him. I didn't give too much attention to their words. I was more concerned with setting myself free. By twisting and turning and pulling and pushing, I managed to pull out the pegs that were holding my left arm down. With one arm free, I was able to free my hair and turn my head to the right. There were cries of panic from the little creatures, and suddenly hundreds of tiny arrows hit my left hand, pricking me like hundreds of needles. When arrows began striking my face, I groaned with pain and raised my left hand to protect myself. They also started jabbing spears at my side. Luckily for me, my jacket was thick and prevented me from getting severely injured. I thought to myself that the wisest thing to do would be to lie still until night. So I stopped struggling and the arrows stopped coming. But soon I heard another loud noise near my right ear. It was like a banging, like people at work. I turned as much as I could and saw about 50 of the creatures setting up a platform, a foot and a half above the ground. Soon, four of them climbed up ladders and stood on the platform. In the middle was an important looking man. He made a long speech looking in my direction. And of course, I didn't understand a word of it. But I could tell from the tone of his voice that some words were threats, others promises, and still other reassurances, especially when he pointed all around and repeated over and over, Lilliput, Lilliput. So I was in a place called Lilliput, though I had never heard of such a country or seen it on a map. I tried to answer the important looking man and tell him that I was a friend and meant no harm. I even raised my eyes and hands to heaven to make my promise stronger. The last time I had eaten was hours before the ship sank. So I had to show these people that I was hungry. I did it by putting my fingers into my mouth as I spoke. The great Hergo, as I later learned this important lord was called, understood my signs and shouted out orders to the crowd below. 100 little people immediately placed ladders at my sides and climbed up on my body with baskets full of meat and bread, which they dumped into my mouth. This was the food that their emperor had ordered as soon as he had received word of my arrival. When I signaled that I was also thirsty, they rolled a barrel up a ladder and across my chest. Then they poured a delicious liquid that tasted like wine. But their barrel was only equal to a cup. And after they had given me a second barrel, they showed me that they had no more. I was grateful to these little creatures. They had treated me generously. Students, this was the lesson, and from this we come to know that after coming to that island, after a lot of struggle, Gulliver managed to reach the island, and he was so tired that the moment he fell down on the ground, he was asleep. And he must have slept for about 9 hours. And when he woke up, it was daytime. And when he tried to get up, he couldn't move because he was tied. His whole body was tied to pegs with thin, strong cords, and they were fastened into the ground. Gulliver's hair was also spread out and tied in the same manner to the ground, so he could not move his body. The only thing he could do was to lie still and look at the sun. He could just blink his eyes. After some time, Gulliver felt something moving onto his leg, and that gradually the movement approached his stomach and then under his chin. So he couldn't move his body to see as to which insect was crawling on his body. So what he could do was just lower his eyes to have a look that what sort of insect was on his body. And when he lowered his eyes, and to his surprise, what did he see was a small human creature of barely 6 inches height, as big as your small scale. And he was standing holding bow and arrow in his hand, and behind him were about 40 more little creatures standing on Gulliver's body. So Gulliver was so surprised and shocked that out of that surprise and shock, a roar came out from his mouth. And the moment he roared, and that was a frightful roar. So those little creatures, they also got panicked, and they all were in a state of panic and chaos, and they started jumping off Gulliver's body in terror. Then, after some time, those little creatures, they gathered courage again, and again they climbed Gulliver's body. And one of them, with great difficulty, managed to climb on the chin of Gulliver to have a close look at Gulliver. And when he had a look at Gulliver out of excitement, that little creature, he shouted in excitement, Hekina Degul. And after him, the entire crowd repeated, Hekina Degul. Gulliver couldn't understand the language, but Gulliver was not at all bothered of understanding what they were speaking. He was more interested in setting himself free. So, by twisting and turning, pushing and pulling, he managed to get his left arm free from the thin cords. And then he, after getting his left arm free, he managed to get his hair free so that at least he could turn to one side and see where he was, and he was surrounded by what sort of people. But then suddenly, when Gulliver freed his left arm, lot of tiny arrows started striking him on his face, and the arrows were pricking him like small needles. They were so sharp and so small, as if hundreds of needles were striking him. So he was hurt. So what he did, he tried to cover his face with his left arm. And after that, those little creatures, they jabbed him with spears. Beta spears, bhala. Huh? They jabbed him, but luckily Gulliver was wearing a thick jacket, so he was not badly injured. So Gulliver thought that these creatures don't want him to move. So he thought that the wisest decision is to lie still without any movement till the night approaches. So he thought, if I try to set myself free, these little creatures, they'll strike arrows with me, on me, and they'll also jab me with spears. So it's better to lie still and not make any movement till the night approaches. And the moment he stopped trying to free himself, the arrows also stopped coming towards him. But then suddenly, after the arrows had stopped coming, Gulliver heard some noise coming. And then when he turned his face towards one side to see as from where that noise was coming, that banging noise was coming. So what did he see? That those little creatures were setting a platform about 1.5 feet above the ground. And then after setting up the platform, 4 of the little creatures climbed on that platform. And among them, in the center, was an important looking man. And that man, he started delivering a lecture, a speech. And though Gulliver couldn't understand their language at all, but from the tone of the important looking man's voice, he could make out that he was warning Gulliver, he was making some promise, and again giving him some reassurances. And the only 2 words which Gulliver could heard again and again were Lilliput, Lilliput. So Gulliver could make out that he was in a strange land called Lilliput. And Gulliver had never heard about this place, or never had he seen it on a map. So it was a strange place called Lilliput where Gulliver was lying. He was stranded on that island due to that shipwreck. So he came to know that he was in a place called Lilliput. Now, it was long before when Gulliver had ate his meal, long before the ship sank. So he was hungry as well as thirsty. Now he started making gestures, because his language the little creatures won't understand, neither could he understand their language. So he started making signs to show the little creatures that he was hungry. So what he did, he started putting his fingers in his mouth to show them that he was hungry and he needed some food. So the important looking man who was making a speech, he was known as Great Turgo. Later Gulliver came to know about him. So he understood Gulliver's language and he ordered the crowd to get some food. So those little people, they climbed the ladder with baskets full of meat and bread for Gulliver, and then they started putting that meat and bread into Gulliver's mouth. After eating, Gulliver again he was thirsty, so he tried to make gestures and show them that he wanted something to drink as well, as he was thirsty. So those little creatures, they carried a barrel, they rolled that barrel up on a ladder and poured it into Gulliver's mouth, and in that barrel was a delicious liquid and it tasted more like wine, and they poured that barrel into Gulliver's mouth, and which Gulliver liked it. He said that that's something very delicious which tasted like wine. And after that, they brought another barrel and poured the liquid into Gulliver's mouth. And then they signaled Gulliver that they were having no more that liquid. So Gulliver says that he was very much thankful to those little creatures, that they treated him very generously in a kind way, gave him meat and bread to eat and delicious wine like liquid to drink. So children, this was Gulliver in the land of Lilliput. Now I'll start with the comprehension exercise A, comprehension. Now the first exercise A is, children, answer the following questions briefly. Question number 1. Where did Gulliver find himself after the shipwreck? Where did Gulliver find himself after the shipwreck? The answer is, after the shipwreck, Gulliver found himself tied to pegs, fastened into the ground, surrounded by strange human creatures barely 6 inches tall in the land of Lilliput. And children, you need to remember that when there is did in the question, that means the answer has to be written in past tense. So you need to change the verb into past tense. So here the verb is find. We'll be changing this find into past tense, and that will be found. So we'll start the answer. After the shipwreck, comma, Gulliver found himself tied, T-I-E-D, tied to pegs, fastened into the ground, surrounded by strange human creatures barely 6 inches tall in the land of Lilliput. Question 1. Where did Gulliver find himself after the shipwreck? Where did Gulliver find himself after the shipwreck? So answer, after the shipwreck, comma, Gulliver found himself tied to pegs fastened into the ground, surrounded by strange human creatures barely 6 inches tall in the land of Lilliput. Full stop. Students, the spelling of surrounded is S-U-R-R-O-U-N-D-E-D. Surrounded. Once again, I'll repeat the answer for you. Question 1. Where did Gulliver find himself after the shipwreck? Answer, after the shipwreck, comma, Gulliver found himself tied, T-I-E-D, tied to pegs, P-E-G-S, pegs, fastened, T-E-N-E-D, fastened into the ground, surrounded, S-U-R-R-O-U-N-D-E-D, surrounded by strange, S-T-R-A-N-G-E, strange, human, H-U-M-A-N, human, creatures, C-R-E-A-T-U-R-E-S, human, creatures, barely, B-A-R-E-L-Y, barely, B-A-R-E-L-Y, barely, B-A-R-E-L-Y, barely 6 inches tall in the land of Lilliput. Lilliput's L will be capital L-I-L-L-I-P-U-T, Lilliput, at in the end, full stop. Once again, I'll repeat answer 1 for you. After the shipwreck, Gulliver found himself tied to pegs fastened into the ground, surrounded by strange human creatures barely 6 inches tall in the land of Lilliput. Full stop. Now, children, question number 2. What had the strange creatures done to Gulliver? Now, what had the strange creatures, those little creatures, done to Gulliver, children? Answer number 2. The strange creatures had tied Gulliver with cords attached to pegs fastened into the ground. Question number 2. What had the strange creatures done to Gulliver? Answer 2. The strange creatures had tied, T-I-E-D, tied. Gulliver's G will be capital since it's a proper noun. Gulliver with cords, C-O-R-D-S, cords, attached, A-T-T-A-C-H-E-D, attached, to pegs, P-E-G-S, pegs, fastened, F-A-S-T-E-N-E-D, fastened into the ground. Full stop. Again, I'm repeating question 2. What had the strange creatures done to Gulliver? Answer 2. The strange creatures had tied Gulliver with cords attached to pegs fastened into the ground. Answer 2. The strange creatures had tied Gulliver with cords attached to pegs fastened into the ground. Question number 3. Why did the creatures shoot arrows at Gulliver? Now, why did they started striking the arrows towards Gulliver, children? Answer 3. When Gulliver tried, T-R-I-D, tried to free himself from the cords and pull the pegs, the creatures shot, S-H-O-T, shot arrows at him. Question 3. Why did the creatures shoot arrows at Gulliver? Answer 3. When Gulliver tried to free himself from the cords and pull the pegs, the creatures shot arrows at him. Question 3. Why did the creatures shoot arrows at Gulliver? Answer. When Gulliver tried to free himself from the cords and pull the pegs, the creatures shot arrows at him. Again, students, this question has got did. That means we need to change the verb in past tense. So, shoot, past tense of shoot is shot, S-H-O-T, shot. So, we'll be changing the verb into past tense. So, question 3, why did the creatures shoot arrows at Gulliver? Answer, when Gulliver tried to free himself from the cords and pull the pegs, the creatures shot arrows at him. Question number 4. Who was the important looking man? The man who stood on the platform, the man who gave the speech. the man who ordered to bring food for Gulliver. Who was that important looking man? Answer: the great Hergo was the important looking man. Who was the important looking man? Answer: the great, Great, great Hergo. Capital Hurgo. The great Hergo was the important looking man. Question fourth: who was the important looking man? Answer fourth: the great Hergo was the important looking man. Now, question 5. What did he want to say to Gulliver? Now, when he stood on the platform, he made a speech. And what did he want to say, Gulliver? Answer 5. Great Hergo made a long speech looking at Gulliver. Full stop. Though, Though, capital T, Hough, though Gulliver could not understand his words, full stop, but he could tell from the tone, tone of his voice that some words were threats, threats, comma, other promises, and still others reassurances. Spelling of reassurances is REASSURANCES. Again, I'm repeating. Question 5. What did he want to say to Gulliver? Answer 5. Great Hergo made a long speech looking at Gulliver. Though Gulliver couldn't understand his words, but he could tell from the tone of his voice that some words were threats, others promises, and still others reassurances. Question 5. What did he want to say to Gulliver? Answer: Great Hergo made a long speech looking at Gulliver. Though Gulliver couldn't understand his words, but he could tell from the tone of his voice that some words were threats, other promises, and still others reassurances. Now, children, question number 6. What did the crowd give Gulliver to eat and drink? Answer 6. The crowd gave Gulliver baskets full of meat and bread to eat. They also gave him 2 barrels, 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 and in bracket please write equal to a cup. The size of the barrel were equal to a cup for Gulliver. So close the bracket after cup, full of delicious, delicious, delicious liquid, liquid, liquid that tasted like wine to drink. Question 6. What did the crowd give Gulliver to eat and drink? Answer 6. The crowd gave Gulliver baskets full of meat, meat, and bread to eat. They also gave him 2 barrels, and in bracket please write equal to a cup, full of delicious liquid that tasted like wine to drink. Question 6. What did the crowd give Gulliver to eat and drink? Answer 6. The crowd gave Gulliver baskets full of meat and bread to eat. They also gave him 2 barrels equal to a cup full of delicious liquid that tasted like wine to drink. Now children, Let's revise all the question and answers once again. Answer the following question briefly. The first question: where did Gulliver find himself after the shipwreck? Answer 1. After the shipwreck, Gulliver found himself tied to pegs, fastened into the ground, surrounded by strange human creatures barely 6 inches tall in the land of Lilliput. Again, I'm repeating question 1. Where did Gulliver find himself after the shipwreck? Answer 1. After the shipwreck, Gulliver found himself tied to pegs fastened into the ground, surrounded by strange human creatures barely 6 inches tall in the land of Lilliput. Now, question number 2. What had the strange creatures done to Gulliver? Answer 2. The strange creatures had tied Gulliver with cords attached to pegs fastened into the ground. Question 2. What had the strange creatures done to Gulliver? Answer 2. The strange creatures had tied Gulliver with cords attached to pegs fastened into the ground. Question 3. Why did the creatures shoot arrows at Gulliver? Answer 3. When Gulliver tried to free himself from the cords and pulled the pegs, the creatures shot arrows at him. Question 3. Why did the creatures shoot arrows at Gulliver? Answer 3. When Gulliver tried to free himself from the cords and pull the pegs, the creatures shot arrows at him. Question 4. Who was the important looking man? Answer 4. The great Hergo was the important looking man. Question 4. Who was the important looking man? Answer 4. The great Hergo was the important looking man. Question 5. What did he want to say to Gulliver? Answer 5. Great Hergo made a long speech looking at Gulliver. Though Gulliver could not understand his words, but he could tell from the tone of his voice that some words were threats, others promises, and still others reassurances. Question 5. What did he want to say to Gulliver? Answer 5. Great Hergo made a long speech looking at Gulliver. Though Gulliver could not understand his words, but he could tell from the tone of his voice that some words were threats, others promises, and still others reassurances. Now, question 6. What did the crowd give Gulliver to eat and drink? Answer 6. The crowd gave Gulliver baskets full of meat and bread to eat. They also gave him 2 barrels equal to a cup full of delicious liquid that tasted like wine to drink. Question 6. What did the crowd give Gulliver to eat and drink? Answer 6. The crowd gave Gulliver baskets full of meat and bread to eat. They also gave him 2 barrels equal to a cup full of delicious liquid that tasted like wine to drink. I hope, children, exercise A is clear to you. Now, students, please write lesson 6 in your English notebook. Please give the heading lesson 6. Then in the next line, write the name of the lesson, Gulliver in the land of Lilliput. Then after that, again put a hyphen and write the name of the author, that is Jonathan Swift. Please mention the name of the author below the name of the lesson so that you remember the name of the author. Then write the word meanings. There are 23 word meanings, children. After that, please write the comprehension, that is exercise A. Answer the following questions briefly and please draw a parting line with a scale and pencil after each answer. I hope exercise A is clear to you. Students, please complete this exercise in your English notebook. That's all for today. Have a good day.